So we're back with Todd Barber, the senior propulsion engineer from NASA JPL.
Hey, good to be back.
You might have heard us earlier when we were having the technical difficulties. Apparently the audio was coming through just fine, but we look like really bad robots.
So it wasn't my robot. I'm not such a good dancer. So yeah.
So what we're going to do is have a little bit of time to do some Q&A. We didn't get to do that earlier. I think we were talking about your Commodore 64 was right when we started to catch out. So again, y'all, if you have questions, put them up in Twitch chat. I've got Twitch chat right here on my phone, and we will ask some questions. Here's one right quick. Look at this. Greetings from Europe. Oh, the continent, not the moon.
Yes. E versus A. There we go. Yeah.
Europe, not Europa. Do you have any special projects you're working on in cooperation with European Space Agency?
We do. Historically, I'm not sure now, but I can certainly tout the amazing collaboration on Cassini.
Right.
Because this was a 20-year mission. 1 year shy of 20 years from launch through the crash, planned crash. And that,
intentional.
Yes, intentional.
Yeah.
And that was absolutely impossible without Europe's contribution. We had the Huygens probe, which was a one-way journey to Titan, an interesting moon of Saturn we didn't get to talk about tonight.
Right.
But also many of the science instruments on board also were European instruments. And it's not to put too fine a point on it, but there were a few times when Cassini probably would have been canceled within the budget and within Congress.
Right.
But the aligning ourselves with the Europeans, that we could play that card of we do not want to offend
everybody else is chipping in.
Right, yes, we do not want to offend our European allies. So that collaboration may have literally saved that mission at least once or twice.
I'll say it almost like insulates us from our own sort of whims, I'll say, because these long-term missions, it's so hard to get the long-term missions going, because who knows what the next directive is going to be, right?
And I totally agree. And then one beautiful thing, once you do this, you find that the worldwide planetary science community is actually kind of small.
Kind of small.
And you run into the same people over and over, and they're all they're as geeky and jazzed about space exploration and planetary sciences as we are at JPL.
Nice, gotcha.
So it's a lot of fun.
Here's
thanks for your contributions, Europe.
Yeah, there you go, Europe. Not Europa, Europe.
Right.
Maybe one day it'll be thanks for your contributions, Europa.
Thank you.
Here's one. How much fuel do Voyager 1 and 2 still have? And do we know how much Delta V that is? It's a Kerbal Space Program.
Oh yes, well that's a fair question. And if I don't do the rocket equation once a day, then I lose my job. I think.
Do you have like a T-shirt or something that has a rocket equation?
I got it up here.
Do you scream about tyranny sometimes?
It is kind of a turkey. That exponential term really kills you.
Yeah.
So we launched with 104 kilograms of hydrazine in each tank.
Okay.
The gas gauges are around 20 to 40, depending on which spacecraft. So, a fifth full or 2/5 full.
Still a fifth?
Still, yeah, not so bad. So, and we use precious little per year. So, of the many things that are vying to end the mission, power, running out of power, communications, length being too weak from the high distances.
Right.
We don't think propellant consumption is our limiting factor.
Is the limiting factor right now.
So that's great.
Gotcha.
For the Delta V, what's the spacecraft dry mass?
He's going to calculate it in his head.
Yeah.
You don't have to show me up like that.
Well, it's, let's see. So I think it's somewhere around 750 kilograms, but it might be pounds. I hate to do these things online. But if it's 750 and if you had 20 kilograms, that's... I don't want to do the rocket equation in my head. So mass final over mass initial. So it would be, let's say, like 730 over 750 equals E to the minus delta V over G. And ISP is about 210 seconds, somewhere in there. So if you put in G, do people do math? They probably will.
In their head anymore?
I think you could figure it out.
You don't have to do the rocket equation in your head.
Well, the interesting thing is we actually don't need any more Delta V.
Right. That was what I was going to ask. How do you use it now?
We basically only use it for station keeping.
Right.
So we point the spacecraft and pitch, roll, and yaw at the Earth for communication, and that's the only need for propulsion.
So every now and then you just get a little psh to make sure the antennas are still pointing the right way.
That's exactly right. Now, maybe the most interesting part there is those thrusters are 40 years old, so they're starting to fail predictably.
Weird.
So we needed a solution other than because a backup branch we'd already used and it had degraded as well. So about a year and a half ago, we said we have TCM, trajectory correction maneuver thrusters, that are pointed at the bottom of the spacecraft, and those did all the burns during the planetary flyby portion.
Right, you need to change exactly how you're passing the planet or something.
And those are the same size thrusters, and in theory, those could control pitch and yaw for you, which were the ones that were degrading. However, we had not turned those thrusters on since November 1980, so 37 years. So we turned them on after 37 years, and they worked perfectly the first time.
Wow.
And now they're controlling pitch and yaw on Voyager 1 for the last year plus.
No kidding?
No kidding. So good old American-built rocket engines
old,
there.
I keep using the term old school, right? The old school technology, it just keeps working, right?
It does. They're really well built. And now they're doing the heavy lifting on Voyager 1.
And now we have tons of questions in chat, right? We got the fuel one. Are you doing anything with Mars 2020?
Yes.
Okay.
I had my first meeting.
Involved?
So I had my first meeting on that about a week or two ago, and as I think I mentioned, in 30 years, I've basically focused on operations. So I like flying them.
Right.
So we're getting close to flying it. We're launching in July of 2020.
Yep.
So the work is just starting to happen to get ready for operations. The tool development, the ground tool, figure maneuver design and tracking propellant and all that kind of stuff. And we have operational readiness tests and launch rehearsals and nominal ones and then ones with anomalies, just so we get used to it, and just practicing.
Practice.
Exactly. So that work will be starting, and I got asked to work that mission. I'm delighted because I've worked the last 3 rovers, so I look forward to that. And then, of course, the most intense part for me will be launch through landing, which would be about February of 2021. So about 7 months there will probably be more than half time.
Am I missing any rovers? Because you worked on Mare, right? You got Spirit and Opportunity. You got Curiosity.
You're missing Pathfinder.
So that was Sojourner Pathfinder.
Right. So that was a 1996 launch and landed on July 4th, 97.
Were you involved with that one?
I was not. So that was the first Mars rover, and so I was busy with Galileo and transitioning to Cassini at the time.
Gotcha.
But in 03, 04 was about when the Spirit and Opportunity came around, and then I got the chance to do my first Mars mission.
So the little one is the one you saw on The Martian that he picks up as a pet and drives around like an RC car. That was Pathfinder. Sojourner. Which one was the rover?
Sojourner was the rover.
Sojourner was the rover. So that's that one, the little teeny tiny one. Then the Mars exploration rovers were the next golf cart size. And the Curiosity is the big one. It's the size of a pickup truck.
Exactly
basically.
Right. And then this new 2020 is basically the same size as Curiosity.
It looks a lot like Curiosity.
It actually has 4 differences. Well, there's probably many more, but there's 4 that I like to point out to the public versus the last rover. So number 1 is we have the ability to cache CACHE samples of Mars in hermetically sealed titanium. CACHE.
Cache. Cache. I thought you were saying like a chemical formula or something. And I'm like,
no, sorry.
Or something? There's some C's and H's in there. But.
So this is a way to store samples pristinely, hermetically in a tube for a future to-be-funded, to-be-built Mars sample return.
So like somebody could come and pick it up from the rover.
And then bring it back to Earth and we can see if life exists there. So it's a first necessary step. If we build it, they will come. Kind of mentality. Number 2, we are making oxygen out of the Mars atmosphere so that Matt Damon and others can breathe there in the 2030s. We're not storing it. We're making like a gram an hour, but we're proving we can take the CO2
What's the process called? Do we know?
It's basically an 18th century chemical process.
Right.
So the chemistry's not new. We're just doing it on Mars with the CO2 atmosphere. And then the idea is then you can show that you could probably scale it up and then helps humans out when they eventually go. Number 3, we have a Mars microphone.
Microphone.
And we've sent a Mars microphone twice before. Both missions failed and crashed. What don't the Martians want us to hear? So, I'm being a little glib, but, that's a way to experience Mars. Let's say our vision challenged viewers and taxpayers. They can experience Mars too.
That's really
Mars
cool.
Microphone, Mars winds, equipment grinding, what else may be out there.
Is that the official term, Mars microphone? We should just call it that. I mean, it's catchy.
It's definitely what it's called.
Yeah, it's definitely what it's called. Okay, and there's one more, 4?
Yes. So this was one the press likes the most, and the public too, the Mars drone. So we're flying a helicopter Mars drone that actually will work in a thin Martian atmosphere and take off, charge itself, and then take reconnaissance of the rover itself and its surroundings.
That's cool. That's like an extra selfie, like an airborne sort of aerial view. So it'll be the first time we've done that where we haven't taken the picture of the rover from orbit.
Right.
Because we have some pictures where the rover is on the surface and it's like a pixel Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter.
That's the one, right? Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's the one Lori worked on actually.
Okay.
And still works on.
It's like you get the imagery and it's like this pixel here is the rover and that sort of stuff.
This will be far different.
That's cool.
Because this is low altitude and there's a cool factor, but there's a great science involved in it too. So we're excited.
There's so many good questions. There's like questions back to Voyager again. There's a question from earlier. When you design the maneuvers, how do you communicate them to the spacecraft? What, do you write them in a programming language?
We do.
Is it a script or what?
Yeah, it's basically a set of commands that the computer knows how to decipher.
Right.
And generally they're not like real-time commands. In other words, we don't just fling bits and it starts executing.
Sure, it's like now.
It's a timed thing because we want to make sure it's got up there, because usually these burns are time critical.
Yeah, so you upload the commands, and then it waits until the right time.
It waits until the right time and clocks them out.
Gotcha.
And we've got test beds on the ground that simulate they're basically equivalent to the flight computer, so we can try it on the ground first.
Clocks them out. Did y'all catch that? Clocks them out. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
We like learning terms like that, like there's specific terms.
Yeah,
Clocks them out.
that one may be mine. I'm not sure.
That's
but
okay.
anyway,
we'll take it. We'll act like it's official.
The test bed's definitely an official term, and the idea is, if there's a problem, boy, if you spot it on the ground first, that's great. You know, before you subject your spacecraft to any issues. So,
I keep looking at the phone. Let me see. People are talking about the ISP. They're like, nice. He knows the rocket equation. Of course, he knows the rocket equation. It's like your job to use.
Yeah, that's pretty basic stuff there.
So a lot of questions about the Voyagers, and you like Voyager, right?
I love Voyager.
I don't think he minds talking about Voyager. Is there any new data that's coming back from the heliopause?
Yes.
Whatever they just crossed, they just crossed something.
Yes, we crossed the heliopause, so we're in interstellar space for the first time, interstellar medium.
Right.
And there's basically 5 instruments, and I won't remember them all, but there's a magnetic field and a plasma wave and like a low energy particle and a high energy particle, and maybe a dust detector. Maybe that is the 5.
Right.
You can check these out online. It's
Gotcha.
the non-camera instruments on Voyager.
Probe's been going for 40 years, okay? He drives them, okay?
So on 2 spacecraft, that would be 10 instruments total.
Right.
Out of those 10, 9 are functioning. So there's 1 instrument on 1 spacecraft that didn't work.
Yeah.
And it was on Voyager 1. And it was, unfortunately, it's the one that really says the most about crossing that boundary. So that's the bad news when it crossed in 2012. The good news is Voyager 2 is working, and we just crossed the boundary.
It just crossed the boundary.
Back in November. So we've got that unique data for the first time. 41 and a half years launch. We're still getting brand new spanking data, that's, the scientists are going crazy for it because we've never been there before.
It's so weird because they've crossed the heliopause, which is where like the pressure from the sun's energy, atmosphere, whatever you want to call it, is sort of like bumping up against the rest of the Milky Way. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah, that's a very good way to say it.
So we crossed that sort of wave where we're really in interstellar space, but we're still in the solar system.
It depends on how you define the solar system. So if the solar system includes the Oort cloud, then that goes out like a light year, and we're only a light day away, right? So we're not even 1,000th of the way.
We've been going for almost 40 years, and we're a light day away.
Right. So if the nearest star is 4 light years, we will pass the star, I think, about 65,000 years.
Yeah, we got
within
some time.
about a light year. That'll be our first star we pass.
Get comfortable.
So we're definitely, the solar system is the nearest solar system. But we do have solar system escape velocity.
Yep.
So in some sense, we've left the solar system.
Gotcha. So we're on the way out, but
it's just going to take a while.
I gotcha. It was really confusing to me because I saw the news articles, and it's like, well, we're in interplanetary space, but we haven't left the solar system. And it's like, what? Doesn't make any sense. But it comes down to we're in a new region of space that we haven't been in before, and we're getting new information.
That's the key point. That's why we've got to keep these spacecraft live as long as possible for the scientists. You said the limiting factor. We talked about the fuel earlier, and they have a limiting factor, and it doesn't look like it's the fuel, right? There's still tens of kilograms of fuel left. What is the limiting factor on the Voyagers? We're not sure. There's things vying for that honor. So one might be that the radio signal's just too weak from the distance of Voyager for our antenna to pick it up.
Gotcha.
One might be the available power on the spacecraft. We lose about 4 watts a year.
It has an RTG or something.
RTG,
like
nuclear battery.
RTG, yeah,
and
nuclear battery.
So we have a few hundred watts only, and we lose about 4 watts a year. And there's a minimum amount
number of critical systems
just to keep the spacecraft alive. So what starts happening, amazingly, we've really not had to turn off any of these instruments I talk about for the interstellar medium, although it's getting close, in the next few years. The first thing, though, before you turn off an instrument, why not just turn off its instrument heater? Right. Now that might be fatal for an instrument, but it might not.
Okay.
Voyager's a fighter, so that gives you a little power back, and then that delays that decision. And then eventually, once you've turned all those instrument heaters off, then you got to actually start one by one turning the instruments off.
Turning the systems off. Yeah.
So
eventually, we're still watching it.
Yeah, but this could be a few years. With a lot of luck, we might make the 50th anniversary in 2027.
I appreciate the missions that keep on going, like the Mars exploration rovers that kept on going. The original mission was 90 days or something?
90 days.
90 days. and they ended up going for
6 years on one of them and 14 and a half.
14 and a half, yeah, gotcha.
Now, it's as a prop guy, it's kind of propulsion guy. It's kind of funny because my last night of the mission is landing night, right? So because no rockets on the surface, so it's a heck of a way to go out, right? Because you land, you stick the landing.
You're like, all right, I'm done. Do some science.
Next, next mission, but it's a really fun way to go out too.
Yeah.
So I look forward to doing it February 2021. Cross my fingers.
Gotcha. There's another one about the resurgence of space stuff.
Yeah.
And I wonder a lot of the times, is it just social media? And now I'm like reading live chat on my phone, and we have Twitter, and we have all these different things. So we have a lot more ways of getting information as opposed to reading a magazine. Do you think there's a real resurgence here?
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. And I have to give shout outs like to NASA's media relations, public relations group. They're all over the social media. They're kind of trendsetter. Cassini won an Emmy.
Yep.
The coverage for the grand finale and the plunge into Saturn.
Yep.
So they, JPL likes to. They always say they like to hire the brightest and the best, and you assume they just mean all the scientists, engineers, technicians, but that permeates the lab.
It means
and
everything.
It goes even into the social media side.
And we say that a lot of the times. I mean, just because you're not math inclined or something like that, you can still work for JPL or NASA. You can work in these missions because they need people who do social media or
Absolutely
PR.
True.
They need accountants. They need all these different things. You don't have to be a science whiz to be involved, which is the coolest thing.
And there's a real high bar for excellence there, and we're just so proud to work with them, and we celebrate their successes too.
Yeah.
The Emmy was really fun.
You have to be some sort of whiz, maybe not a science whiz, but some sort of whiz. Social media whiz, something like that. Let's see here. Stuff I'm reading. That was the space race about the resurgence of the space race. I think we've taken up it's 9 o'clock now.
Really? Already?
It's 9 o'clock. I think we've taken up a pretty good chunk of your time. Any other cool things? We were talking about your Commodore 64 when we had the technical difficulties.
Yeah.
What do you want to tell us that's cool about what you do, or like a mind-blowing thing that you've accomplished?
I just think I'll close a couple ways.
Cool.
I'll say, first off, thank you to the public, especially in the U.S., because taxpayers support this work, and I like I hope that you feel this is a good use of tax dollars, and I will spend my career, trying to excite the public about space science, get kids fired up for STEM careers.
Yep.
Show where the tax dollars go in a sense of what's beyond that next horizon.
Yep.
What's this ancient mystery we've been trying to solve? If I can help in some tiny way to do it, it's the honor of my life to do that. I commend what you do. It's great that you put in realistic physics. That is fantastic, because then you raise a generation that knows how the physics works. So that's very important to me. I'll close with this one. This one
cool.
just blew my mind. There's a group at JPL in our micro devices lab. Somebody came up with a side-looking radar in a suitcase, and about the size of a carry-on bag.
Suitcase side-looking radar.
So you can roll it down the street and pull it with a handle, and the radar bounces out to the side. It can go through 30 feet of concrete, 10 meters of concrete, and then bounce back and give you a signal. And you can measure the radar waves so accurately, we can see when it bounces off a human. Like we can see their respiration, their heart rate, or an animal, or we can tell the difference between different animals. So this was used when the Nepal earthquake happened. They put it on an airplane, they flew it across, they went to a rural village, a few hundred kilometers from the capital, down the street amongst all the rubble buildings, said there's 4 people alive in that building trapped in concrete. They dug through the concrete and saved 4 lives. So
wow.
All from this thinking out of the box, using these same techniques, planetary radar technique. So for me, that just brings it home in an amazing way that
we get that all the time, right? And it's like, oh, why are we spending all this money on space, right? Why do we need a probe to keep going? It's already out of the solar system. Who cares, right? I deal with that a lot. And I think that people don't realize that when we make advancements in space technology and robotic exploration or human exploration or whatever, that also helps us out here at home, because space is limited resources, and space is the ultimate place where you need to recycle and take care of your environment and stuff. And
Absolutely
a lot
true.
of the times, I mean, what you just said, I almost got goosebumps. It helps us here at home.
I feel so blessed to work there, and just when you hear these stories, to me it's just the most fun place in the universe to work anyway. But then those are the stories that kind of stick with you. Like, this is really important work, and I'm just so grateful that it's funded and supported and celebrated in the country. And on the web, and we have a lot of space science fans out there, and I hope to continue it for the rest of my career.
Absolutely. Todd, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We really appreciate the time. We're glad we got the technical difficulties worked here. Chat, y'all know what to do this time. Put some love into chat for Todd Barber. Again, Senior Propulsion Engineer, NASA JPL. Thank you so much for the time answering our questions.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming out tonight.
All right, good deal. So chat, I'm going to step over this way like this. And one more time, you can get his microphone muted and stuff. Thank you. And here's all the hearts scrolling through chat. In fact, some of them look like Pluto, see? With the heart on the bottom of it.
That's great.
Yeah, so really cool. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, you definitely send me that link.
I will. Oh, I'll send you a link so you can see the video.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So chat, again, they said keep doing you, Todd. You keep doing you. I know that I missed a lot of questions. I really apologize. We have limited time and stuff like that, but there's always so many good questions that come through chat. Maybe we'll catch up with Todd at some point in the future. Now I know who to ask for when I go to JPL. I'm just kidding. He's like looking over there like... One more time, y'all, we're at Intrepid's here in Space Museum. This is a virtual field trip, so I appreciate y'all coming on the virtual field trip with us today. I know that not everybody can make it to Intrepid in New York City, right? Maybe there's a science museum near you or something that you might be inspired to go visit, but we love doing these virtual field trips because we're able to bring something to you that you can't experience yourself, right? Hey, if you're ever on vacation and you make it through New York City, it's the aircraft carrier in the Hudson River, you can't miss it. You'd be surprised how many Uber drivers can't find it, but that's a whole other story. I really do appreciate y'all joining us for the field trip today. Again, earlier, over on the island, the superstructure of the carrier, going through the Captain, the Admiral Bridge, talking about the history of the carrier with Mike, our tour guide from Intrepid. Here with Laurie and Todd, talking about searching for water on other worlds and looking at life and that sort of thing, answering our questions, spending time with us. It's really fantastic. We could not do this without you, so I'm going to do it one more time. Vectors, our 501c3 educational nonprofit, that's how we're able to come out here and do this. So one more time, that link in chat. When we shut down the stream, you'll see that donor page. It's actually a donation. It's not you buying me a Ferrari or anything, right? It's you buying things like our camera equipment, paying for our bandwidth, travel to get out here. It's New York. It's not cheap. I could not be out here doing this without y'all. Also, the moderators that help out, everybody behind the scenes that are making sure there's no flat earthers in chat and that sort of stuff, answering questions, doing the standby, saying what's up when we have technical difficulties, changing the lower thirds and stuff. Appreciate that as well. Behind the camera, Seacuff and Airboros, 2 more volunteers helping me get this done. I know y'all are probably sick of me talking at this point, but I am going to go ahead and shut the stream down for now. Thank you so much. When we do tweets and when we put out the videos, put some love on those tweets. Let the Intrepids here in Space Museum know that you appreciate their support as well, because it's not just I show up out here with a camera and we start streaming. It's Intrepid says we can do it. Intrepid actually got our flight to come out here and do this. They're one of the reasons that we're able to help with these live broadcasts, right? Y'all with the hotels and the funding and stuff like that, none of this would happen without y'all's support. So I appreciate you. I hope you had fun. I hope we see more stuff like this in the near future. Remember, there's lots of cool events coming up. Rocket launches down at NASA Kennedy. We're going out to Wallops next month, trying to get into Uber Hazy, working on it. But if you like those events, keep on showing up. Whichever way you participate or support, thank you so much. I'm going to shut up now, and I will see you nerds later. No more streams. I'm traveling tomorrow. Don't expect to stream tomorrow. Maybe one Sunday, if Chemist lets me stream on Sunday. Next stream, regular, back on Monday. We'll play some more Ultra Hardcore Career Kerbal. And we're done. As always, appreciate you. Later, nerds. We awkwardly count to 7, because that's the signal delay. And we run the production off the phone, so we have to say, all right, now change this.